Okay, welcome to the Helen Plum Library Board of Trustees meeting for February 18, 2025. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Meeting is called to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Allison Fingerfoot.
Here.
Sue Wiggins.
Here.
Kristen Arkansas Walsh. Here. Julie Walsh Smith. Present. Jennifer Erickson.
Here.
Bernie.
Here.
Kelly Sims. Here.
Okay, thank you. And do we have any public comment? Anybody like to say?
No.
Okay, all right. Well, welcome.
Or
If you came to say anything, you're welcome. This is your time.
We came because we're concerned about the people that are gonna be running for the board that might be inclined to ban books.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your.
Is there a time to talk then, or do you want us to talk now?
If you have a message, everybody who participates in the meeting is allowed 5 minutes. If you have a message that you'd like to deliver, yeah, to the board and on the record, sure.
I would certainly like to say something, you know, I did a quick Google search before we came here tonight, and I saw that there are over 30 churches in Lombard. Those are just Christian churches, those aren't mosques or temples or places where people worship in official congregations, maybe in unofficial locations, and that's wonderful. But the library isn't a church. The library is an infinite place of resources for everyone, and it's a place for everyone to feel safe. And I know that the guise of this infiltration of book banning fanatics is we want to keep the kids safe, to which I say, when you take your kids to the library, stay with your kids. Nobody takes a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old and drops them off at a park and then leaves and leaves them on their own accord. So if you want your kids safe, stay with your kids. But there's so many kids, marginalized kids, that need the resources at a library to connect to something so that they don't feel so isolated that they might harm themselves. I know countless people as adults now who their libraries saved them, because they were able to find out information that let them know that they were okay. And we are astounded at the thought that there might be people on the board of the library that have a nefarious and very rigid agenda. And that's why we're here.
Well, thank you for your comment. Would anybody else like to speak?
We can't say it any better than.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can say we agree. Okay, thank you so much for your public comment. All right, moving on to the next action item. May I have a motion for the document member?
I move to adopt the agenda.
I second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. May I have a motion on the second action items?
I move for approval of the consent agenda items.
A second.
Okay, any discussion on the minutes, financial reports?
I had a few just corrections, I guess, in the minutes.
Okay,
Under new business, Anderson, under 9, because I knew Anderson is missing that.
okay.
Yeah. That. And then on the next page, under C, I think it's policy, is that an extra? Approval updated policies.
Mhm.
Okay. And then under D, trustee Kearney brought, I think that should be brought up, I think. And then. Let's see. D number 2, college capital C.
Oh,
College
probably
page.
just a page, yeah.
Yeah. That was it.
Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, all in favor of approving the consent agenda items as revised, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any nays? Okay.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Oh, even on this consent agenda item?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Did say financial report. Okay, Jen, can we have a roll call vote?
Yep. Allison Higgins Floyd,
Yes.
Sue Wiggins,
Yes.
Kristen Atkinson Walsh. Yes. Julie Walsh Smith,
Yes.
Jennifer Erickson,
Yes.
Ginger Green,
Yes.
Kelly Sims. Yes.
Okay, motion
Thank you.
carries. Thank you. Okay, on to committee and foundation reports. Audit committee,
Did not meet.
okay. Director Relations Committee,
Director Relations Committee did not meet.
and Policy and Bylaws Committee.
We met on the sixth of February to review the bylaws and we'll continue to work next month, same day, but March sixth, and then we'll bring that to the board in March for the March meeting.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, and then Ginger, the Helen Plum Library Foundation, any updates?
Yes, we met last week and we will be working on a book sale through the farmer's market. So that will be once a month, not every week. So it'll be, I don't have exact dates yet. The farmer's market will determine which weeks we will be able to set that up. And we will sell books from the library at the market and make a little money with those used books. We're also going to have small restaurant give backs. And we're looking at June, July, and August with El Famous Burrito in June, Bricks Pizza in July, and Rainbow Cone in August. And we'll be working on getting the marketing materials ready for those and that information out to the public so that everybody around town can take advantage of those evenings and help us get a little bit of money back from those.
So we're talking withdrawn books from the library?
We are talking books that have been pulled from the collection as per
Yeah,
Ann and set up as
Yeah, so,
books for sale.
when Lucky Day books are retired, other, multiple copies of releases that we don't need multiple copies for after the surge of checkouts comes out, so. Good quality books, decent condition, ready for a new start.
And when the farmer's market, when is that?
It runs from May 7th to October 20th. And we'll have,
One on St. Charles.
yes, it'll be on
okay,
St. Charles. It's every Tuesday. I don't have the exact time.
Yeah.
It'll be on Park Street there and
Oh, yeah.
it's usually in
3 to 7.
like 3 to
Yeah.
7.
Mhm.
And they will change the hours a little bit based on the weather.
Yeah.
We'll start a little bit earlier in May and then we'll be given a specific date each month that we will set things up.
Do we want to consider also doing that for cruise nights?
For the foundation,
Yeah,
that was not something that was brought up for the foundation.
okay.
That's kind of a different
Yeah, different.
audience and atmosphere, I think.
Not-
Yeah, but they have a kids table for, there's
The
somebody there.
library will
That's-
participate with cruise nights, usually. we
Yeah,
have these
because I'm talking
books.
about selling the withdrawn books.
Yeah, I don't
That's,
know, it's,
that would be something maybe the library would do. It's not something the foundation is looking at doing.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, I just
separate
thought I'd throw
entity.
it out there as another venues, and
yeah,
there's a lot of people that attend cruise nights.
yeah, was not something we,
Yeah, I wonder if cruise nights isn't as much of a shopping experience as a farmer's market though, for buying books.
Sure.
So, and speaking of books, just to keep a note, I have from when I was on the foundation, still a bunch of the books that were. Not from the library, but from donations through foundation members, and we did the book baskets at the Jingle Ball Jubilee pre-COVID, so. I've been storing those for the foundation until they needed them, so keep that in mind too.
thank you.
you could drop those off to the library so we can put the books together.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Susan. And thanks, Ginger. Okay, moving on to, let's see, is there anything that says unfinished business? Any of it? Unfinished business? No, okay. Okay, moving on to new business. Can I have a motion for action item A?
I move to adopt ordinance 2024-2025-010, correcting Schreiner's error.
So Anne, do you want to say a little bit about that?
Sure, so this was a typo caught on our levy by the county because they go number by number, line by line in great detail to make sure that they are fairly distributing funds, so. this corrects that mistake. It does show, on the highlighted page on page 19 of the report, the correction and the circle in red is the error. So there should be a 9 in place of a 7. Ultimately, the subtotal was accurate and the grand total was accurate, but that single line had a typo. Hence the scrivener's error.
Okay, and so this is a roll call vote.
Just acknowledging the correction.
We are making a correction, right, because
okay.
it's a tax levy, so, right, so it has an ordinance attached to it. Jen?
No one seconded.
Oh, I'll second.
Thank you so much.
Allison Peterboyd,
Yes.
Sue Wiggins,
Yes.
Kristen Hathaway Walsh,
Yes.
Julie Washington Smith,
Yes.
Jennifer Erickson,
Yes.
Andrew Carney,
Yes.
Kelly Sims.
Yes. Okay, all ayes, no nays, motion carries. Jen, do you need a signature from me?
Yes, later.
All right, give you that, good. Okay, and then,
So
do we need a go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry.
No,
We're gonna just do a quick presentation. The staff have all moved to multi-factor authentication, meaning you have a password and you also have something else confirming your identity when you're logging into library email accounts. This improves our overall security. So Tyler is going to give an overview of what this will look like, and we will be turning this on for board trustees after the next board meeting. So between now and the next board meeting, if you can check in with Alex with any questions, we will email out instructions after the meeting, but we wanted to make sure to give you an overview so you have the concepts. Thank you.
Yes, as Anne mentioned, Alex is implementing this to, basically prevent data breaches. So I'm sure may have experienced multi-factor authentication in your work or your personal lives. So we are implementing that. It'll only happen outside the building currently. So this will instruct you how you can enable that within your Microsoft account. So you're going to go to this link. We'll send this link out to you all after this meeting.
I appreciate that.
Yes, so you don't have to remember it at this time. So you click on this link and it's going to take you to this page. It'll probably ask you to sign in again since it is a security info page. And you're gonna click add sign a new method right there. See? And then you have a couple of different options for this. You're pretty much always gonna pick that Microsoft Authenticator. If you don't, which is an app that you can install like on a smartphone. If you don't want to do that for whatever reason, Alex does have some password generator keys. And if you want to go that route, you need to contact him directly because he has to do some setup on his side.
It looks like a keychain.
Yeah.
So it's a physical generator that will
Yeah.
be separate from any other.
Yes, it generates like a number for you that you can type in. I think the easiest way is just installing a Microsoft Authenticator app on like a smartphone, again, if that's available to you. So you select that, you can click download now if you're kind of doing this on your phone. You can look through the App Store, the Google Play Store to do it. If you already have an Authenticator app, you can use an alternate as well. So like Duo, if you use like LastPass Authenticator or Google Authenticator, all these authenticators work the same essentially. So you can use a different app. For whatever reason, I have 3 on my phone right now. I've tried all three work.
Okay.
But if you're not gonna use Authenticator, you want to use that link. I want to use a different Authenticator link. You need to click that one app, or I want to use a different Authenticator app. You're gonna click that link if you already have one installed on your phone. But otherwise, if you're using actual Microsoft Authenticator, you just click the next button. And it's going to then prompt you to kind of set up your account on the Authenticator thing too. And you kind of click through, follow the instructions. You're setting this up for like probably a work. It's probably what you would pick for this one. And you're gonna get ready for it. And then you're gonna see a QR code. And that QR code, within the Authenticator app, there's going to be like an option for you said, type in the number or something like that, or use your camera to select this QR code. You're going to then, within the app, scan that QR code, and it's going to then connect it to your email account.
Okay, so for someone going old school like me, I don't use my phone for going on the internet or
Okay.
email. I use my own computer.
Yeah. So,
So I would need an app on the computer.
no, on your phone,
I don't use my phone.
If
No,
you
not
do
for-
the email.
not for checking your email. So,
If you are using only your computer and you don't want an app on a phone or separate device, you can use the physical token to generate codes for you, and that's a process that Alex will walk you through.
but if you're checking your email on your home computer, whenever you sign in to your email, you have to go through this multi-factor authentication process.
I do it now for several
Yes.
websites, and
Yes.
they usually just send a code to my phone that I then just type.
That's gonna be similar to this. It's just not gonna text you the code. It's going to be an
I
app.
like that.
It's more
You have to
secure.
open, yeah, you have to open that.
Yeah.
When you go to a cloud-based or cloud-based server. I'm doing great. When you go to cloud-based servers, the vulnerability is there. And so we want to make sure that we have everything locked down as best as possible. So it is an extra step. But like I said, Alex is happy, and I'm not speaking on his behalf. He said the same message to all staff. If he needs to sit down with you and go through the process, he's happy to do that. Because it is a big ask. It's asking you to do something extra not every time, but periodically when you're logging into your email. So it usually lasts for the authentication process. It's usually good for about a month to 2 months, depending on the whims of Microsoft. But once you get rolling, it's just gonna be that extra thing you do once in a while, and yes.
So it's not every time.
No, it's not every time. So what, like on my phone, I have to update it. I think it's like every 2 months. And it's, reasonably painless. It was just that first hurdle of getting used to this next step, so.
I'm sorry, Jill.
Yeah, it's a good question. So what's gonna happen is it's going to like just test that it's working right. And so you'll see a number on your screen, you'll see a number on your phone. You want to make sure that those numbers are like kind of matching up. And then that will confirm that it's working properly. And then you'll see the notification was approved. And then you'll see that within your security info that you now have a device registered for multi-factor authentication. That will be within that security info profile within your Microsoft.
And Jenny's able to do all this, right?
Jenny?
She should be able to, if not.
Oh, yes, yeah, I'm sharing my screen now. Yes, I'm sharing my screen over Zoom right now. Yes.
Yes,
So,
I can see everything. Once again, I gave 2 thumbs up.
okay.
Unhelpful, but I can see it all. Thank you.
And then going forward, it will, like I said, generate when you're signing in, as you can see on the left-hand side, that's what it'll look like when you're signing in. It's gonna generate a number. You then type that number into the Microsoft Authenticator app, just to confirm, you are, say you are who you say you are. To log in addition to your password. And this is the token. As I was mentioning, so there's a little device, it looks like a little, kind of key fob kind of thing. This is an alternate to installing the app on your phone. So if you don't want to use your phone, we can set you up this device. It gets, again, tied to your account. It's going to generate a 6-digit number, and you then type that in to your email when you're signing in as well. So that's enough.
Can I glue it to my mouse or don't read it?
Maybe not glue it, but you could probably like get like a little, chain. You could, attach it to the mouse board or something like that. So,
I have a wireless mouse.
so okay.
Okay.
You probably, command strip it to your computer screen or something like that.
There you go.
Okay. So, yeah, if you have any questions, you can contact Alex or the help desk at Helen Plum.
Like I said, we'll share the slides out, so you have all the information, you can go through step by step, or you can say, Alex, I'm in a panic, and he'll help you.
So I know that it's set up, it says March 19th, but can we set it up ahead of
Yes,
time?
yeah, that's just like when it's gonna get turned on
We're gonna get
for
the
you.
link tomorrow.
What?
We're gonna get the link.
Yes, yes,
tomorrow.
you will get
Okay.
that, yes, you will get the
Okay.
presentation tomorrow. With that link, and you can go through that process, you can follow the slides along, if you need them for reference. And then you'll have through the month, so if you, for whatever reason, the next board meeting, if it's not coming through, we can handle troubleshooting, at the next board meeting, or, obviously you can come in at any time. Alex.
What was that little doohickey thing that I said I want to move my mouse, what you call it?
Token?
Yeah, token generator. Yeah, token generator, yeah,
Thank you.
no problem.
Thank you. Okay, any communications for the record?
No, I did not receive any.
No communications received. Moving on then to the executive director's report.
So I'm gonna make Tyler talk more.
Okay.
So what we're gonna go through are the survey responses and the overview we have for the collection survey that closed, a little over a month ago. So Tyler created, the overview, so I figured I'd make him discuss it.
There was over 200, is that what?
Over 200 responses for the library materials survey, so that included, e-materials, databases, and physical materials.
Yes, so this was a survey that was sent out in November, December. You know, yes, asking people to share their thoughts on, materials here at the library. So there were 208 responses, which were largely in line with kind of previous survey responses as well. And this is a breakdown of who, people describing, who they were, as far as like age groups, primary library users within their household. So you'll notice that these percentages are not going to equal up to 100%, because people could select multiple options, on the survey. So it's just saying that out of those 208 responses, 68% of the people who responded to that question indicated an adult lived in their household, and like so down, so forth. Going, and 35% said senior as well, and 25% said grade school. So mostly adults and seniors are the ones, as far as households, who are completing the survey, again, kind of in line with previous surveys that were done. In addition to that, 64% of the responses included more than one age group in the responses. And I think it's kind of highlighting, at least as far as people responding that are, showing like kind of key engagement with families, or multi-generational households as well. As far as people, indicating like where they lived and how often they use the library, most of the people who responded to the survey were indicated they live in Central and Northern Lombard. And then like furthermore, like 90% of the responses, said they came like weekly, monthly, and or multiple times a week. I think that, so it's kind of keeping in mind as we're going through these responses that most of the people who respond to the survey, we would probably consider, regular library users, who are coming into the building as well. So. Okay, so this is indicating why they use, the reasons for using materials. Overwhelmingly, people are saying it's reading for fun as their primary usage. The other, other reasons they indicated were a little bit more evenly distributed. With like lifelong learning, hobbies, and research and homework, kind of these some utilitarian reasons, being a little more evenly spread. So it was interesting to see, but I think this kind of reading for fun, I think is something, potentially we can, lean into, I think, marketing efforts and like.
It's only 9% homework. Because that percentage should be expected.
I'm personally not surprised by that. I mean, especially considering schools have school libraries as
Yeah.
well.
As well
So,
as most kids have devices.
Lombard East doesn't have books in it.
okay.
I think though,
Yeah.
when you're considering I have a kid in grade school in District 44 and a kid in middle school, and the approaches to homework are accessible for all students. So when they're turning in work, all the resources they need are available for them.
Yeah.
So they don't
have to go find.
Contrary to when I was in school and I came to the library and I did my research in the nonfiction section and pulled down the encyclopedias. They're doing research through the tools that the school provides so that everyone has those tools available to them. So it's not too surprising that we're not seeing homework help on this as a primary use for the 200 people that respond, or 200
I would say the
people.
same with high school.
Yeah.
But the high schoolers are using our space to
Yeah.
collaborate. Because we signed that.
Yeah.
So that's good.
I just remember getting totally flabbergasted when I walked in during the 50-year reunion for my graduating class. And I'm like, where's the book stacks?
where's all the shelf of books?
Yeah.
I mean,
Digital online resources.
And you can see that, and if you walk through the space, especially in the evening, you will see a lot of students like using the space, maybe not necessarily materials, but they're using, like study rooms, they're using the tables and chairs, working on their personal devices, so. No, I'm not overly surprised by that, personally.
well, I was.
Okay, so, Jennifer, do you have see a big hand raised?
Yeah, thanks so much. Just a quick question. I'm sorry if I missed this. Was this one where it was like they could select multiple options and
Yes.
were they able to rank it, or it was just like a multi-select one?
No, it was not a ranking, it was just, they could pick, all that apply. I think
Okay.
is how a lot of the questions were worded, so there was not a first one, so.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
The next question is how people were finding new materials. With the top reasons, or top methods that people indicated were library displays and library catalog, with, a little over 50% for both of them. Followed by staff recommendations and social media and Next Reads. Next Reads is an opt-in like newsletter that shows that, emails out like New York Times bestsellers or fantasy, sci-fi recommendations and things like that. So
Makes my to be read list even longer.
At the old library, at each computer's card catalog. There used to be the New York Times bestseller list and what was the other one? There used to be 2 lists at each catalog. Do we do that now?
I'm not sure if there's still the physical list, but there is a digital list in the catalog itself. That's always available.
Yeah, but that would require someone thinking I have to go search for
Yeah,
that.
I
I
can't,
think it's handy having it.
sure, I'm just not sure offhand.
Okay. I don't know why it just occurred to me, but it did. Because I would sometimes refer to that list,
Sure.
besides the email that I get saying these are the new books that have come in for the various things. And sometimes I do go in and reserve a book based on that email. But sometimes I forget about a book. And so seeing it on the bestseller list is a jog to the memory.
absolutely.
I was amazed seeing 59% from libraries. That.
Yeah, that stood out to me as well, as I was going through this, especially, I mean, yes, library displays being so high, I think it is like new materials too. So I mean, those are the displays that are on the first floor, right when you come into entrance. So I mean, they're very front and present, and that's where people are going to browse for new materials. Yeah, but along with that, it really struck me, just like how self-directed people were finding new materials.
True, and I guess I was also thinking because these are heavy users, that they would come already knowing more about what they wanted, you know what I mean? But maybe I think that's also a credit to your library, to the displays, obviously.
And how grateful we are to have room for display.
Exactly.
Yeah, Jennifer, do you have another
Yes.
question? Or is that?
Me
Yeah.
again, I just wanted to echo what Kristen said because I agree that the library displays are great. I have gotten 2 fantastic reads that were staff picks, that had the little bookmark sticking out of the top, and I might not have picked them up, but loved both of them. And then when you first walk in and there's the Lucky Day display, like that's great. And I've had good luck always getting like something off of there that I've been interested in. So, and even in the children's section too, I have found that that is so much easier to browse through with the shelves in the new library than it was in the old one, like to see exactly what you're looking for and to find it by category. So I was not surprised by this just because I think it's so much better than it has been in the past, and because the staff is doing a really great job of putting interesting things out there that maybe everybody wouldn't have thought to read. So just a kudos to the staff for that.
Yeah, it's really, that's part of the value, if we can play up, I mean, lean into that, like you said, that's a huge part of the value to coming to a library as opposed to ordering on Amazon.
Exactly.
You don't have to know when you come what you're looking for,
Mhm.
or you may find something else that you didn't know you wanted.
Right.
And I do also peruse those little cards, say, if you read this author, you might want to consider these other books. I often look at those, I don't know.
Yeah, those are fantastic.
Yeah, I think they're best too.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, yeah, I think, yes, one thing we're thinking about with like displays in the catalog too is, yeah, how can we enhance those services if that's how people are using them? And adding additional value to them or just continue with them. And then also this brought up to, how can we better promote some of these other services like next reads and even staff recommendations. I think we're talking about that, not so much like the staff recommendation displays, but readers advisory, how can we, play up staff expertise about connecting people with materials as well. This next section is kind of largely addressing, respondents addressing, how easy they think it is to find library materials. So overwhelmingly, people, 75% either said it was somewhat or extremely easy to find materials, which we found encouraging. That small little red sliver, I think it was one person who said it was extremely difficult. And so the red section is extremely difficult or somewhat difficult. So those were very small, with that gray section being like more of a neutral. And then just kind of yes or no questions, ease of browsing, again, 88% said it was really easy to browse, locating materials, 85% said they had no problem locating materials. Again, keeping in mind, these are regular library users are probably pretty familiar with the library.
But it is still a new building
It is a brand new building.
with a brand new layout
Yes.
compared to what they were used to in.
Lower shelves.
Yes.
Yes, and then people did say that a lot too. Lighting was, I've never seen the old building, but I've heard stories that there were multiple comments about how good the lighting is for finding materials. And helpful labels, helpful staff too. So I think even people who had issues finding things, them referring to the staff as being helpful for helping them, locate materials was a key thing too.
So what are the gray areas were those yes or no questions?
Yes, it was a yes or no response. Yeah, I realize I think with the lighting here, I apologize for that. The gray area is no. So people said, yes, it was 88% was, yes, it was easy to find something. Did you find, do you find it easy to find something? Do you find it easy? Can you locate materials? It was just a yes or no question. Yes. So 30, and yes, the whole number is 23 people said no, 12% of responses, 31 said no, they could not, they had trouble locating materials, 15% of the responses. There was some helpful, like just open-ended questions too, some of the feedback too, again, kind of, I think people are looking for that browsing experience. So some people mentioned some increased signage, I think especially like in the nonfiction section, where like, I held a patron, they're trying to find the travel books, they just didn't know where they were. So they had to go to the catalog, but they would rather, I think they were just looking to browse. They weren't necessarily looking for a specific item. And so I know we've been discussing, signage for assisting with the browsing. And I think there's also in a beta testing right now, it's called Stack Map, which is going to be into the catalog. I believe it's been brought up, and that will show you where the book is physically on the shelf. It's going to show you like a digital map of the library and like where it'll be, on a shelf in the area as a way to help.
I could have tested only once, and I don't know how many years, and I had a hard time finding the book. That's because there is an author that I read that kind of goes into mystery besides regular fiction. So I was going from one section of the library to another section. Said, okay, is it here, or is it in the large reading book?
Yeah.
Large print, but I always.
Yeah, and that was some of the feedback too. There were a handful of people saying something similar responses, like when we break things up by genre, sometimes it's not always clear where they're going to be. And so that's just like weighing when you're looking for a specific author. Yes, so there's going to be pluses and minuses with any sort of classification system like that, and benefits to both. So
It's fine,
reserving it or asking the librarian, because I certainly had that experience very recently, and the book was on display, I couldn't find it, I searched all the displays, and 2 seconds later, she's like, I found it, here it is, whatever it was.
That's where it's stacked up.
Yeah, so there are multiple ways.
So the next section is about, services for, materials that we don't necessarily have here. So it's requesting an interlibrary loan or an ILL. This refers to, an ILL through what we call OCLC or Find More Illinois, is the other service that we provide for getting books from other libraries. So about 63% said yes, they used that, and 37% said no, they didn't use it. With the yes or no, that's what we're unclear about. We're unclear if the people who said no were either unaware or they are aware and don't use it. That was unclear because it is just a yes or no question. So yeah, so a lot of these, I think through the survey too, this has brought up a lot of questions for us as well, that are just, as I think indicated in some of the previous questions, just opening up areas for further study, to look and see, but how can we, this also brings up things, how can we streamline that process easier? Because there were some comments, about the process for requesting an ILL, you have to navigate to a separate form and then fill that out and to do it. As opposed to something, I think some of the comments talked about Swan, it's a very different system. And so, how can we make that process more user friendly? Is something to consider, as especially administrative planning. And then additionally for requested purchase, only 43% said yes, they used it. 30% said they had no idea about that service, and then 27% said no. So again, this brings up, again, how can we improve the user experience and how can we promote these services so people are more aware of them,
When you were asking this question, is that just for like actual requests to the Helen Plum Library, or is like, I know you through Libby, you can ask, like if you search a book, it says like request.
This referred to Find More Illinois and interlibrary. loan.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We used to have a sign that said, we have a lot of books, but we don't have all the books.
Mhm.
So please, ask if you can't find it here.
Yeah.
Ask a librarian and we'll help you find it.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's
the way I was
usually
thinking.
how I do it.
Yeah, this was just asking, we asked, our checkout period's long enough. Overwhelmingly, 87% said our checkout periods are long enough. With, a handful of people saying, no, they weren't. But even a lot of people who said no, or they had trouble finishing the material. They said the auto renewal feature, was something they really enjoyed, and it gave them time, to finish it. Yeah, if you get one renewal, you're up to 6 weeks. So, but yeah, largely the overwhelming people are happy with our checkout periods. So now we're getting into types of formats that people are using. A little bit into that. So 54% of the people said that they're using both. So they're checking out physical items and they're checking out digital. 40% of the people said they are only checking out physical items, and then about 6% were saying they're digital only. But again, keep it in mind, 90% of the people are coming here on a monthly basis. It's possible we're undercounting the digital, but that's something we can dive into more into the data to see how many unique users are only digital or only physical. Something I think we take a look at, because I think, and keeping an eye on this, I think does have a lot of implications for future budget allocation stuff, is how we're deciding what to spend our money on for collection development as more people move to digital. And we'll get into people's feelings about that in a second, but.
I attended a program here and I ran into someone who hadn't seen for a while. And she said she uses only digital because she could increase that text size because her eyesight is declining rapidly.
Yeah.
And I personally thought she was way too young for that, she was younger than me. And so that never occurred to me.
Yep.
That that would be a good reason for the digital.
Yeah, accessibility, I think that is a question that we asked, or a reason that people gave for digital, we'll see in a second, but yes, that is definitely a real concern. So we asked people why they like physical items. And, you know, why are they checking out physical items? Overwhelmingly, people are saying they just like, they like physical items, or they prefer it over digital. And here we see that browsing the library being another reason why they preferred physical. Kind of reinforcing what we saw above as the main way people are finding new materials. So again, it's a really interesting thing, you know, something we can lean into and kind of like, you know, this not something that can be recreated like in a digital way in the same way that can be a physical space. So leaning into that kind of thing, you know, with our marketing promotions and, you know, making sure we are having dynamic and interactive and engaging displays as well. You know, so what's up?
Any explanation for lack of access?
Lack of access is basically they don't have a digital device. So they don't have like a smartphone, they don't have like a Kindle, you know, they don't have something that they can borrow on a, you know, borrow a digital item. So they rely on physical. So that was a very small percentage who said that though, who responded to the survey as well. But yeah, I think people receive your response and how they contrast with why digital in a second, but I think it's very much like kind of an emotional response, you know, as to why people like physical. Like there's definitely an attachment to it. You know, the way they like it, the way they prefer it, you know, being able to browse. Is really what stood out to me. So we asked them why digital? And overwhelmingly, I think the responses to me really stood out as being more on a practical sense, not necessarily a preference. As you can see, the very last one, only 7% of the people said they actually prefer digital. Either they're doing it because it's convenient. You know, some of the titles, they're only available in digital formats, or they can have multiple titles on their device. As you see, like 25% of people, or almost 25% of people are saying that it's for accessibility reasons. Or it's like a wait time issue, or they can't get to the library to check out things out. So these reasons are really, yeah, much more practical, but it does bring up some questions too, specifically around like digital only titles. You know, would those people prefer physical? They just aren't available to them. You know, if it only is available in digital, is there potentially some sort of gap in our physical collection that needs to be addressed?
Right.
But again, that's kind of something for further study.
We also want to look at if a lot of these people responding are high library users, maybe they're more like the hands-on book
Yes,
versus the
absolutely.
digital, especially at location, also central Lombard versus, that would be interesting to look at too.
Absolutely. Yeah, we should be able to see some of that data, like geographically, you know, who is checking out, you know, digital items.
Is there a lot of overlap between things you carry both print and digital of, or how do you decide that?
Yes and no. So Hoopla is whatever's available is available. It's not selected.
Yeah.
For other of the e-resources is more selection based, but there are also consortiums, so we get titles that are purchased by our libraries. And in some cases, it's books that are either no longer in print, but they're available digitally. So maybe we can't purchase the physical copy anymore, but it's available in a series. That happens quite often, but they do a single round of printing and then the book is gone and somebody spills coffee and then, yeah, now we just have it in digital, or we could try to recall it.
Yeah.
So there is not a total overlap. The digital collection is huge,
Right.
because it doesn't take up space.
Right.
So it's certainly larger, but I think what we're considering as we're looking at some of these responses is looking in more detail at how users discover materials using our catalog, but also when they hit snags or a search fails and nothing comes up. Because this is all data we have access to, it's really just a matter of creating systems so that we can discover trends and gaps in collections and just looking and considering data differently. because we have a lot of library users, we have a lot of materials going in and out. But supporting the role of selectors and also supporting the interests of the community, we can do that a bit more creatively going forward. So I think really this, I know we're not quite through it, but the survey overall was just, we have so many more questions.
Right.
And it was a larger question to try to tackle and just get some touch points on, and I think we have some.
Yeah, 20 years ago, there wasn't hardly any.
Yes.
For, the, general public, just those schools.
I believe this is the last question. This was specifically about online resources. And we asked, which ones are you using? And these are, I'm giving you the categories right here. The question itself gave examples of the type of database, or what the actual database names were, just for brevity, though, I included the subjects here. But the biggest response was 44% said people, they were just unaware that we had these online resources. And then the rest of them were kind of evenly distributed, as far as their responses go. That's 60% people, said they use at least one type of these databases, but they weren't necessarily.
44% must not read their newsletter from the library.
I think it's really hard in any field of work to not get too jargony. And database, I don't think means much to many library users. I think for some folks, if they're really coming in and they just want to find materials that they find interesting, and they want to read the latest mystery or whatever their reading interest is, they may not be interested in finding these resources that are more learning based or information based, or how to fix your car, or here's the New York Times, or whatever it is. But I think what's interesting here is that we're looking at a subset of effectively power users that were willing to take the time to fill out the survey. And that unaware thing is a little haunting. Because 44% of respondents being unaware that these things are available tells us we have work to do and how we're promoting it, because even if they are looking through the newsletter, that portion isn't striking them. If they are receiving the emails, that portion isn't landing. So what can we do as library staff to better communicate what they are, to incorporate it through cross-marketing efforts? So if we're doing a cooking program, that we have flyers available about the miscellaneous cooking databases that we offer.
Well, what about something on our rotating sort of bulletin board that
Right.
says, ask us about our databases, or did you know, we offer, because I know I see the tutoring stuff, I see the teaching resources for kids' lessons, whatever.
I think
So
it's gonna take a little more hands-on, frankly, to
Right.
make sure that people are
language
seeing these resources available, and now with the expansion of the EBSCO databases, I'm curious as to what the impact would be with a larger conversation about databases in Illinois, but again, jumping right into library jargon, and I probably lost most people that were listening, so really, it's finding accessible ways for the user to discover useful things that they may or may not want, and if they don't want it, then assessing whether or not it's something they need, so.
is this the last page?
Yeah, there's this it pretty much is the last page. So yeah, this is just kind of
I have a couple questions.
Yeah. It's just a simple wrap up, that we did invite people to give some open-ended responses to, again, like overwhelmingly, people were happy with being able to browse materials, locating materials, checkout periods, and respondents often frequently mentioned how helpful the staff were, and as a resource, for, engaging and connecting with those resources. There was a somewhat reoccurring, theme for feedback, and that is wait times for digital materials. To be honest, that, this is the 5th library I've worked at, that is a perennial problem. Every library is facing that issue, digital wait times for digital items. It's not unique to us as an organization. So it's a universal thing. It's just it's basically the cost of ebooks is so high, like they have a different purchasing model. for digital materials, and so it just can't keep up with demand. And it's just, it's the licensing models that publishers use that kind of creates a bottleneck of providing those things.
And do we
But
only have that on Libby? Because I don't feel like I've experienced it on Hoopla. Like Hoopla is like instant. right?
Yeah,
You just-
Hoopla is
they have it,
instant.
You get it.
Yeah.
they just don't have the new releases like Libby does, is the
Oh,
issue.
okay.
So Libby has the
Okay.
bestsellers,
Yeah.
you
And you
publishers.
wait, if you're like
Yes.
one out of
Yeah.
22, you're last on the
Yes,
list.
publishers restrict that access to Hoopla, or Hoopla just doesn't buy it, because they're just too expensive, for Hoopla to provide them as part of their model, so.
Because Hoopla's model is
Yeah.
the cost per checkout as
Yeah.
opposed to your buying individual titles.
Yes,
We're paying for the checkout, which is between $1 and $3 typically.
so, so yes, it is different, yeah, we're mainly, I think the wait times are people are talking specifically about Libby in this situation, so the Overdrive Libby app. And yeah, and there's feedback, people want more popular copies. I think it's largely people don't want to wait for materials is the feedback. And I get that, it's a user experience issue. No one wants to wait, we live in a kind of instant world of 2-day shipping.
Yeah.
And so wanting to wait is frustrating. And I totally get that.
And what is the tipping point for
Yes.
having a copy and
Yeah.
how quickly can we actually get that copy?
So that's something for, again, like further study, looking at, digging into the data a little bit more, and really considering that, as far as strategic planning goes. Yes, and having things in digital and print, I think we were talking about. And there was comments too about people wanting more, in certain subject areas as well. So some of them, are probably, more niche. But, looking to how we can, accommodate that,
I didn't even know Manga existed until I did the winter reading thing and I had to read something.
What's going on?
It's a Japanese comic book. Japanese, yeah. See, yeah, yes.
My son keeps it turning.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's very popular with teens.
As we
Yeah, I
do.
know my last library, that was the most checked out teen material, was, but that drove our teen circulation, yeah.
Is that ours too?
I don't know what the data is on that one. I would not be surprised.
It's big.
Yeah.
It's,
Because people,
Why do I not, I have a team, why do I not need it?
it's not for
A
all.
lot of,
Yeah.
it's very like sci-fi or fantasy, if they're
That's
into
not-
that, so
Yeah.
I think that definitely.
It might be a little young.
depends on
Fan
them.
of 16,
Yeah.
I just.
No.
It's- Yeah.
yeah, it's
I'll
just
walk
the
over and show you.
specific.
I was gonna say,
I see it.
it's right there. Yeah.
No, it's a specific style.
Yeah.
So they like it or they don't.
Yeah.
It's not a kinda, it's an all on or a.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, I think that's very accurate, is you're all
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think all this feedback is create a lot of questions for us to dig into more.
Yeah.
And I think it also provides some really helpful feedback as we think about strategic planning, specifically as it relates to materials moving forward. So,
Plus, we have a series of our own sets of data where we're, how many people checked out. I mean, we know the numbers
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
huge in comparison to
Yeah.
where we were, so, yeah.
I think you mentioned, this, but I just wanna make sure, like, in future surveys, or like, I don't know how else we can gather this data, but like, I would love to see like more, not just focusing on the central part of Lombard, because that seems where they, primarily, how do we reach out to those other areas, and then also, I think one of the pages had something about age groups, and like, I know we were, trying out like the, 20s and 30s, game nights, yeah, thank you, but how else are we trying to get those, that younger generation in?
Well, and I think
Library.
that will, considerations for that will really be part of the strategic plan,
Yeah.
right? It's who are we not connecting with, who are we connecting with well, how can we better serve?
Yeah,
And so when we're putting out these surveys, we are trying to send them to everyone. I mean, they're typically in a postcard or they're in the newsletter, but not everybody wants to do a survey, understandably.
right,
But how do we pull people in
Mhm.
that haven't visited for whatever reason?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think those are just the heaviest users right
Right.
now,
right,
that respond.
This survey was
Yeah.
a bit more of a commitment, I'll
Yeah.
admit, it was a longer survey
Yeah.
than we had intended, but we were really trying to get just a how do people use their collections?
Mhm.
So the next survey coming up will be based on programs in the library. That'll be at I think it's May and June.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for confirming that. And then we'll have a presentation on that in either July or August, depending on the survey results and responses. And that will close the initial round of surveys for the community. And I think really what we're learning from this is how appreciative we are of the community for responding to surveys and how much we're learning from them. And in some cases, there were some real surprises, and that's valuable. So we'll still be in the thick of the learning phase of the strategic planning process. Once the last community survey closes, we'll do some community engagement events. We'll have the board retreat where we talk through some of the data and things that we've learned before really focusing and honing in on those goals for the next 5 years. So we have a lot of work to do this year, but we are on track and staying on time. So sometimes that's accidental and we just go.
It's not accidental. Thank you, Ann.
That was what we have for the director's report.
Okay. And then any questions? I'm moving on to library activity report. Any questions on that?
I don't have a question, but I just want to say conference room sound. I'm glad that that's been addressed.
Yes, that has been on our list.
Where, I didn't see that.
It's on page 27. It's near the bottom.
Under facilities updates,
Yes.
it's page 8 of the report, 27 of the whole packet.
Oh, yeah.
I just had, maybe else I'm sure, I was really happy to see that the new resident postcard was going out. I think that's
Yes.
a great
I know.
idea, and I'm glad that's happening, so that we're reaching out to people moving in to make sure they know that what a great resource this library is. And then I also wanted to say thank you to Anne and all your staff about communication about the barn doors and the youth services.
Yeah.
And the front repair, that is awesome, so thank you.
Yes,
And so is that staying open like indefinitely?
yes, we
Okay, you just
we
said it wasn't a good
haven't
design
been
feature.
closing those doors. That small conference room is a play space for older kids. It usually has, I think, I haven't been down there today, but it was very recently space-based. But there's usually building blocks, something interactive on the dry erase board. And I think we've been trying to find how patrons are using that space, because
Yes.
it was a bonus room
Mhm.
when the architects designed it, and we wanted to make sure we had
Okay.
something that was engaging ongoing. And we're finding we don't shut those doors anyway, so
Just keep it open.
let's just keep it open and see what we need down the line.
Okay.
I don't think we would replace them with barn doors just because they were not effective in that space.
Okay.
I just wanted to say on page 26 or 7 of the report, the picture
Yeah,
for the artwork,
Yeah,
I think is going to be incredible. I'm so incredibly excited about this.
since we got,
Oh, and I love the pop
Yeah.
color.
I can't wait
Isn't
to
it
see it in that style
fantastic?
of art.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so you'll have to imagine what it's going to look like in that print style,
Right.
but
Yeah,
I think
so-
it's going to be great.
Great.
yeah.
What have you, yeah,
I know.
so who had the picture?
This is something that the marketing department worked with the village to design.
Yeah.
So somebody has, that's very
So,
cool, beautiful.
yeah, they composited those different elements together to create that.
That much of the church.
Right.
Or that much,
Right.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
That's a great.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that was
It's
something they
too
put
hard, I
together
love it.
to create the perfect picture.
Yeah,
So nice.
I'm very excited about it. You have no idea.
okay. Where was the thing about the postcards?
On page 220 of the whole packet, one of the,
Oh, yeah.
activity
It's
report.
on the back.
With the Robin's best picture.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Okay. I was super excited about that too. I was wondering the number, I was surprised, so far 15 cardboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
new cardboard.
yes, but how many in the last 6 months, do we know how many were mailed out?
I
or-
don't have that number off the top of my head, so we can find
I
out.
was just curious. But I think it's great. I love that you're doing that. And I just wanted to say, I love the overall reporting
Yes,
Yeah.
mechanism you're using now.
yeah, this new
I
style.
really did, like, I know you talked about it last time and you were, I just felt it just gave me a really good grasp of what's going on. And I like the way it's just formatted now. It makes a lot of sense. And then just even at the end, having, you know, any staffing updates, your meet, I mean, everything just worked for me. It gave me an overall picture of what's happening at the library.
Yeah, and if anything is being presented in a way that is unclear, or you're not identifying, folks that are mentioned, just let me know, because like I said, it's a work in progress, and we're gonna keep kind of tweaking it until we settle on what works best. But I just personally, I like, when I was providing a report with my name on it 40 times, I'm like, it's not me, I'm not steering it, I mean, I'm steering a lot of stuff, but it's not me, it's the library's work, so we really wanted to kind of pull away from that ownership. Because nothing goes well without everyone pulling, so,
Well, and it's just a good snapshot. of
Yeah.
what's happening here, and I think that, but I had a few actual questions and or comments. Oh, the middle high school, so okay, starting with I guess, on page 2. I was surprised how high that stat is for the email newsletter that goes out, the middle and high school. Is that, like, the elementary school is 3953. Is the middle and high school email that high, really, 5195? I'm surprised.
Well,
there's that many.
that makes sense, but if you look at the open rate,
right.
No, I know, but I'm surprised we even have that many people on the list. That's my point.
I think it's more likely for families to have cards for teenagers and middle school students than it is for individual cards for younger students. So I think that's why there's that jump.
So
'Cause
it
we may
automatically goes to
So
everybody?
once you separate out an individual, or you have, yeah, but I can ask about that.
So for some reason, I was thinking.
Because it seems disproportionate.
It did. So does everybody get one automatically?
This is for folks that opt to include an email,
So that's
and then
what
they
I
can
thought.
opt out.
Okay. Cause I was assuming you had to opt in, and I was surprised that many middle school and high school people would opt in.
It's, could also be parents.
yeah. Like I know I get the middle school, I don't have a middle schooler, but because I teach in a middle school, I get that middle school newsletter.
And I
'cause I'm
get it
interested
too.
in-
And I don't think I get the high school one, and I have a high schooler, but I could be wrong.
I think it's, well, I'll
Yeah,
ask for
it's
clarification
probably-
on,
It was
on
just something.
how
where
it's
I'm like, oh,
targeted.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I should look at maybe I do.
I did
get the
all
high
three.
school one.
I think at some point the trustees were signed up for all of them.
I
Yeah.
think maybe that's true, and so maybe I don't pay attention to what I get because it's me and what I get because I'm a trustee. Okay. Okay, so basically, anyone who has a kid with a card,
With a card.
okay. we'll
Because,
get them
because like
until
my
they opt
email,
out.
my personal email is applied to my kids' cards, because I'm the one that's
Right.
responsible for all the stuff. But not every parent wants their kid to have their own card, so maybe we're missing
Right.
some of
Or
that.
once their
audience.
kids email out there.
Yeah.
Or they're, yeah, all those
Right.
things, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see. What did you mean by, okay, on 26? Under the paperback shelving,
Oh, yeah,
where it says this improves the overall of the paperback shelving.
oh,
Tell me
so
more about that.
they, when the shelves were installed, they left out a shelf for paperbacks. Paperback books are shorter. And so when the shelves were too tall, it looked more sparse than it actually is. And so by adding an extra shelf to the paperback shelving specifically, those
Okay.
trade paperback sizes,
Yeah.
I think they're about 7 inches tall.
Yeah,
It kind of tightens it up in a way, but it also allows for less of a footprint for that specific collection. It was shelved that way at the old facilities. But we realized when we were walking through, we're like, wait a minute, it's missing it, like it's been missing a shelf this whole time. So we're moving some shelving. There was some extra shelving from youth services that we brought upstairs. But also the tilt on the bottom of some of the fiction collections, the general hardcover fiction collections, that bottom shelf is tilted up so you can better read it. But because like those were set improperly, so it was too tight. So when you went to pull the bottom shelf out, it gets kind of caught at the top.
Yes, we had it kind of.
So we're spreading those out a little, we're adjusting the shelf height, and it was literally off by one click.
Yeah.
So, so it's gonna be kind of a lot of work to correct this. But we moved in 3 weeks, so I'm not surprised that we have some corrections to make. So if you have time after the meeting, the shelving we're referring to, there's some blank shelves, which is always a little concerning for anybody when you see like, where are the books? They still exist. We're just shifting them and moving them and spreading them out a little bit. We're also trying to find some more opportunities for pockets of displays. Where we're finding if people really like browsing, where can we have more browsing opportunities? And if we have some face out shelving and some of the stacks, if we can carve out some space for that, we might be able to better support those browsing interests in sections like travel or cooking or other high interest collections.
So with the paperbacks, were you saying they can be double stacked now?
So there's
Because-
one, I think there were 5 shelves and now
Okay.
there's 6 shelves per column.
Yeah, okay,
Because there's plenty of space for that. So
Okay.
it might be better as a show and tell.
yeah, okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Cause I felt like there were a couple of areas that looked kind of like spacey or something.
Yeah, that
Maybe
was
that's
the
what you're
paperbacks.
talking
It was
about,
because it
yeah.
was just too breezy and you're like, why is there this
That's
much
why it
space?
looks like that. That's curious. 'Cause when I saw
Yeah.
that, I'm like, I thought, it's hard. Okay, I think I just have one more question.
Okay.
And
No, ask.
Okay. What's the, page 28? Under facilities training, what is the Omnia versus public bid? Is that a bidding process that we need to
No,
know about?
that was just something that they discussed at this meeting. Phil was just documenting the things that they talked about. And the Northern Illinois Facilities Manager is just a collection of facilities
Oh,
managers. They meet, I
okay.
think quarterly.
Okay.
So yeah, he was just like, this is the meeting I went to, here's what we talked about.
Right,
So,
okay,
not specific to our organization, but specific to facilities in general.
okay.
I suppose that was not the best way to put it.
No, I get what you're saying, but it's nothing, okay. And then the patron services associate position, is there anything about that we needed to adjust about, that the first round of candidates?
Oh,
Is there anything
if
like
this was just an
salary, or just,
update,
was it just a thing?
this
like-
was, didn't work out.
Yeah, okay,
So this was really to acknowledge that, yes, this job has been reposted, yes,
Yeah.
we're still accepting applications. So
okay,
you know where we're at in the process.
okay. Just unfortunate that.
It
you
happens,
go through the round,
yeah. Any other
That's it,
questions?
okay, yeah.
Jennifer.
Anybody else?
Jennifer has a question.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good, okay.
Jenny has a question.
Oh, not a question, just a short comment. The social media, what a great job they're doing. That was a
Yeah.
great shout out in the report, and I follow them on Instagram. I love how they have like planned content, but then also go along with some of the trends. So just I wanted to say they're doing a great job.
Absolutely.
And to add on to that, all the librarians who jump in to participate in the videos are also awesome.
Yes.
And brave.
And how it got reposted by,
Yes. James Patterson.
yeah,
Our friend.
yes.
Exciting.
It is.
All right, anybody have anything else?
No.
On the library? All right.
Staff.
Very good.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
I
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank
The
you.
presentation.
Hi, Jenny.
Bye, Jenny.
bye everybody. Good to see you all. Bye.
Again, see you soon.
The presentation that Tyler went through is linked in your in the board packet, so if you were like,